How's it going, guys? Dylan from If Cars Could Talk, and I hope everyone's doing well today. Now, we're all familiar with American muscle, but British muscle? Surely that's sacrilege. You see, this car is more meant for an overall wearing farm boy than, well, let's be honest, British crown wearing royalty. But that's exactly what made this rolling contradiction so interesting. Now, first off, you're probably questioning, is this thing even an Aston Martin? I mean, let's be honest, our minds have all been overrun with images of James Bond being chased by bad guys in either a DB5 or a DBS. And when you even look at the design of this thing, the side profile is more reminiscent of a fastback Mustang, and let's not forget the quad taillights. Those harken back to old Ferraris before, well, Ferrari got rid of their precious design language, but I won't get in that rant just yet. The funny thing is, I didn't know this existed. The only reason why I found out is because, well, when I was a young little boy in my dad's overly cluttered car garage, I saw a poster of one and always questioned, what the hell is that thing? And how does it have an Aston Martin logo on it? Now, one other reason you probably never heard of this thing is because they didn't make many of this thing. Call it 40 examples. And in fact, this car was so special that it was owned by someone rather special too. The third heir to Qatar, and if that isn't significant enough for you, he also kind of owns Harrods luxury department store in London. Maybe you've heard of it. But just to prove to you, if you don't believe me he owned this car, come on the interior. So his royalness actually has his crest right on the back here. It's also on the manual and on the gear lever, which acts as a great segue here to my next point. It's a manual! Yes, and I know I'm an excited little boy, but maybe just call me an old-fashioned purist, but it's important having a manual in this specific car because, believe it or not, many of these Vantages had automatics. Ugh. My dad has a wonderful little, well, saying for cars like that. They're better off being rolled off a cliff. And that's because, well, let's be honest, we didn't exactly have paddle shifters connected to, well, good automatic transmissions back then. So, thank God. Now, as I've mentioned, the base car here is a Vantage. And I probably also mentioned a few times, it's a very special version. In fact, it's so special it got its own designated name. It's the LeMans edition, and it's supposed to harken back to the 1959 Aston Martin DBR1 24-hour Le Mans winning race car. God, that was a mouthful. And might I add, that car is unbelievably gorgeous. But it got a few elements that, well, really resembled that car, and one of them being the very obvious, beautiful British racing green metallic paint. In addition to that, it also got these silver vents on the hood and these silver mirrors, all things you can find on the original race car. There are a few other things I want to show you as well. Allow me to decapitate my camera here. So essentially, it's a beefed up Vantage. You have vents everywhere, the flares are all bigger, and it just looks like it's going to eat your children. In addition to that, got 5-spoke magnesium wheels, and then oftentimes old Aston Martins had very, well, let's say dry old interiors for old men, very much like a Rolls-Royce interior. Obviously there's a ton of leather in here, but I got a few treatments like these metal pedals, the metal gear lever here, a much larger tack that even a blind mouse could read, and most importantly, it got rid of all the old tree panels and replaced them for metal. And might I add as well, how ridiculous is this interior? It almost works, honestly, the green on green. It's really cool, two-tone, the silver. It's just funky, and I wouldn't want it any other way. All right, so I've gone on and on about how this is British muscle. But you see, there's two very important components to a muscle car, in my opinion. Obviously, it has to look muscular, and you have to feel powerful when you're in it, but it's got to have a powerful engine to match. And what's more American muscle than a V8? This one has one, but it's twin supercharged. And on top of that, well, just to give you a brief background, they made a V550 package for this, which was obviously 550 horsepower. And then this one got an additional package that added 50 more. It was called the V600 package. And in 1999, this was the most powerful road car ever produced. The thing I love about this car is, well, you don't have to be named James Bond to feel like a hero in it. And the other thing is, it's enough of a muscle car where, well, you can get away from the bad guys without special effects. Alright, so I've told you the story. Now let's walk around the specific Aston Martin Vantage V600 LeMans edition for sale. It's got 11,000 miles and it's $500,000. But let me explain to you why that might be worth it. Now, first of all, it's incredibly unique. An Aston Martin looking like a muscle car spliced with an old Ferrari at the back. It's just funky. You can see this in a collection, obviously. It just will fit right in with anything interesting. And it's obviously been a dream car of mine just because it's so cool, not only from a design point of view, but look at the spec on this thing. The metallic green, as I mentioned, going into, well, a crazy two-tone green interior. And obviously you have all these silver accents to match on the inside and the outside. And in addition, it's obviously been flared up. It's got vents everywhere. It looks like a proper muscle car, yet it's British, as I said. And the other cool thing is, obviously it was, well, the most powerful car when it came out, 600 horsepower. So even today, this thing would be probably ruthlessly fast. And you're not gonna get screwed over by an automatic transmission with that. Because usually you can have, you know, older cars with higher horsepower, and it doesn't mean anything if you don't have this, because obviously good automatics didn't really exist back then. And it's rare to find it in these cars, and I think this really brings up the value. Not only that, it's also got, you know, a great history with the car, obviously being owned by royalty. You have the crest there, as I mentioned, and it's just such a crazy car. Look at that headliner. Everything, it looks, you know, very new. As I said, it's pretty low mild, but it's been well kept after, and it's just funky. Look at all the little switches, look at this giant piece of metal. You have no wood paneling, obviously, with this edition, and you have a lot more sporty inspired things. I don't want to, you know, go over it over and over again, but bigger tack, you know, metal pedals, and it's just a really interesting car. Now, obviously, the whole point of me just walking around this is I want to kind of showcase what they have for sale, but it's kind of the things that stand out to me. And obviously, it's got the really cool sound when you close the door. But wow, what a really, really cool car. Very, very unique looking and just funky all around. Alright guys, so that is it. The story of the Aston Martin Vantage V600 LeMans. A car so strange, it's hard to picture Aston Martin making something like this. And it's a car so muscular, well, it makes British muscle a thing. I have to say it's been an absolute privilege and honor filming this car, and I have to thank, well, Symbolic International for allowing me to loiter at their dealership again. Check the link below to see all of their crazy inventory. And guys, if you want to see me on more things, I'm of course on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to see what type of equipment I use, check the Amazon links below. Guys, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you want to see more of my content, please do subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.